Good morning, Elevation Church. You can have a seat. My name is William Calhoun. I am the pastor here, and I am so thankful that you're here with us this morning as we continue on in our study through the book of Luke. Last week, we looked at some Pharisees who weren't so excited about this guy named Levi, the tax collector, getting to hang out with Jesus and be forgiven by Jesus. Between that and what we're going to talk about this morning, we see Jesus both call his 12 disciples and also lay out what is kind of like the Lucan version of the Sermon on the Mount. If you're familiar with the Sermon on the Mount in the book of Matthew, you get the Beatitudes, you get a lot of the, you may have heard this, but now I tell you this. There's kind of a Lucan version in the book of Luke, where basically he goes through these 3 blessings and 3 woes, and the gist of it all is everything you think is the way that you normally process things is a little bit different and opposite in the kingdom of God. So if you want to be rich, you have to be poor. If you want to be loved, you have to be hated. Everything seems to be a little bit different in the way that God does things versus the way that we would expect things to be done. And over the next several passages, what Jesus does is he begins to draw that out and help us understand really what that means, which is where we find ourselves this morning in Luke chapter 6, verses 27 through 38. When I was growing up in the early 2000s, late 90s, we were privileged to many, many terrific and amazing movies, the best of which is obviously Armageddon. If you don't know the story of Armageddon, Armageddon is one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. The movie is terrific. It's Bruce Willis at his best. And what happens is the Earth is about to be destroyed by an asteroid, because why not? And an asteroid is coming at Earth, and NASA has no idea how to stop it. But they hear about these oil well diggers who dig way out in the ocean, these giant holes, in order to extract oil from the Earth. And they say, what if we get these guys on a space shuttle to land on an asteroid, to drill into the asteroid, to blow it up so the Earth can be saved? Most people in the movie felt like this was an impossible, ridiculous task. In fact, they tried to take these oil guys, who was a pretty ratchet group of dudes, through about a week-long training to teach them how to be astronauts, that they could get up there and do it. So they get there, everything goes awry, about half the crew dies, it feels like the world is going to end, there's rocks hitting the Earth all over the place. And you finally see at the end Bruce Willis in the most epic scene in any movie in all time, obviously, is sitting there, and he's got this thing in his hand, and basically when he clicks it, he's going to set up the bomb to the asteroid, and the world will be saved. And him and Ben Affleck are arguing who's going to take the hit, who's going to hit the button. And Bruce is like, you go, and he shoves him out, and he goes and marries his daughter, and it's a happy after the world survives, all right? It seemed completely impossible the world would survive, but it did. This morning, we're going to look at a passage in Luke that Jesus says to us that feels like something very impossible for us to do. In fact, maybe one of the most impossible things that he says. And that is that we need to love our enemies and do good to them. That we need to love our enemies and do good to them. The truth is, most of us would rather take our enemies into our own hands, very literally. We would rather get justice. We would rather get revenge. We would rather get what's ours. But Jesus turns that whole concept on its head and redefines what does it mean to interact with those who harm us and those who hurt us. And we'll pick up here in verse 27 of chapter 6. But to you who are listening, I say, again, Jesus is talking to his disciples, his followers, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. And pray for those who mistreat you. If you look at these 4 passages right here, these 4 sentences, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who mistreat you. I want to set it up well so you know exactly what he's talking about. When he says love your enemies, this word enemy he's talking about is people who literally hate you to your core. They hate everything about you. They hate the way you look, they hate the way you smell, they hate the way you smile, they don't like you at all. When he says those who hate you, he's talking about those who are seeking to harm you. They're seeking to hurt you. They're seeking to harm you. When he says those who curse you, he's talking about those who would seek to tear you down with their language or seek to damn you or to curse you before God. When he says those who mistreat you, he's talking about those who would falsely accuse you in front of others, who would lie on you and lie about the things that you do. So Jesus isn't talking about any run-of-the-mill kind of enemies. He's talking about the people who are really out to get you. The ones who really want to get you down and the ones who really want to put you off. In verse 29, he says, if someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have do to you. I feel like there's a reason we're preaching this to adults and not toddlers, because they would take the fire truck, smash their friend in the head, and say, hey, you have to give it to me, and give me your dump truck too. So we want to make sure we're going to apply this appropriately today. Verse 32, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. It's like anybody can love people. But love your enemies and do good to them. and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you'll be children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. That right there is enough sermon for me today, that he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. And that's good for me, and that's good for you. Verse 36, he says, be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Now, again, not all of us have people seeking to kill and destroy us, literally, though some of you very well may, and if that's you, let's talk. Let's get you into protective services, all right? I've seen it in the movies. It works great. None of us have these kind of people coming after us, but we do regularly have people seeking to hurt us, to harm us, to hate us, to put us down with their own words. We've experienced people bearing false witness against us, to build a lie against us. Maybe it's a boss who's never given us a promotion that we feel like we deserve. Maybe it's a neighbor who we can never seem to please or come to peace with. Maybe it's someone at school who incessantly puts you down, bullies you, calls you dumb, calls you ugly, says you're not good enough. We all have these people. Maybe we could think about them very directly, a face of who they are, who really seem to put us down, to put us off, to tear us down, that we would call as someone who hurts us, or maybe even our enemy. When I was in 8th grade, there was this kid named Nick Gowdy. I just remembered his last name. I couldn't remember it before. God, I hated this kid. So Nick, I grew up with him in elementary school and middle school, and Nick was a punk. And Nick was a little bit of a shorter guy, and he really desired that everybody around him felt small. I think it was his MO in life. And I remember he kind of picked on me for about 3 years, and I was in math class, algebra one day, and we were there taking notes. I don't remember what this kid said. He was popping off about something. I think it was my mom, and I was like, you're not going to talk about my mom. So I'm sitting there, I'm kind of raging at my desk, and it's middle school. When I was in middle school, we had those like 5-star binders, the 3-ring binders, huge, cumbersome, heavy things. And I was like, I'm going to kill this guy. So I grabbed this binder, and with all my might, which I probably weighed 75 pounds, with all my might, I pick up this binder, smash him across the face, and I was like, that's going to show him, right? Like, that's going to show him. We both get ISS. Nothing really great happened, but I felt amazing. I felt great. Like, in that moment, I never felt more alive. Because honestly, that's kind of what getting revenge feels like for a moment. It does feel really good in that moment. Like you feel like you've accomplished something. You feel like you're doing something well. You feel like you got justice. But any of us in the room, if we're honest, would recognize and say that that feeling doesn't last very long. You see, we've all experienced some level of enemy in our life, someone who by our fault or their fault seems to genuinely not like us. And maybe is even out to harm us. What Jesus is going to show us in this passage, as we read through it earlier, is that the way our heart craves to respond is ultimately going to lead us to ruin and nowhere really good. And he's going to give us another way where we would love those who seek to hurt us. So I believe, though, as we experience hurt and pain and abuse and enemies and all these things in our life, that there are 3 typical ways we respond. And by the way, before we get into all of this, I want to clarify this. There are some in the room who, when I talk about loving your enemy or experiencing, abusive language, being beat up, all these things, your first thought is, oh, wow, I really do need to stay in this maybe really unhealthy marriage or relationship. What I would say to you is, as we read through this passage, there's nothing in here that would indicate if you're in an unsafe, abusive relationship with a family member, with a spouse, that you ought to stay in that relationship. In fact, it would seem as though the Bible is clear. You ought to get out of that relationship and into the health to protect you in a way that you need, to find healing in the way that you need, and restoration where it can be had. But he does tell us throughout this passage that there's those who are going to be seeking to hurt us, to harm us with their words and with their actions, and the right response is to love them. It doesn't tell us to be a doormat, but he does tell us to love our enemies. So how do we respond typically when we get hurt? I can think of 3 ways we typically respond, and the first is what we've talked about so far this morning, is that we seek to get revenge. We seek to get revenge. This is like the option I think most of us really love. Like, it's our favorite. Like, if you hurt me, you better watch out. Like, I'm going to knock you out. If you hurt my family, you better watch out. I'm going to knock you out. It's the option Hollywood really seems to love. And one of the greatest movies outside of Armageddon, right? There's a lot of great movies I love, but these 2 have got to be in the top, is Gladiator. If you've ever seen Gladiator, one of the best lines in Gladiator is this. And he says it, his voice isn't as manly as mine, but he does an all right job. He says, my name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the north, general of the Felix legions, loyal servant to the true emperor, Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and now I'll have my vengeance in this life or the next. And all of us like, get him, man. The storyline's pretty simple in this movie if you've not seen it. The gladiator starts off as one of the top soldiers in the Roman army, and he gets really close with the emperor at the time. And the emperor is on his deathbed. And so the emperor is like, I want you to be the emperor. My son is a schmuck. He's a total failure. I don't want this guy anywhere near the crown or the throne. You're going to be the guy. Well, the son gets wind of this, and he's fairly unstable. So he sneaks in. He kills his dad. He's fairly unstable. He murders his dad, and he decides he's not going to allow this other guy to be the emperor, right? So he sends the soldiers to where this guy's from, and he says, I want you to kill his wife and his kids and him. So he gets wind of this, the gladiator does, and he runs, Russell Crowe, and he's riding his horse all the way over there. It's this majestic scene, and all the majesty ends as his family is brutally murdered. And he gets there, and he gets kidnapped and arrested and turned into be a gladiator, where basically he is put on sport to be dead by lions and soldiers and all kind of things. Well, as he's there, he turns out to be a really great warrior. And at some point, he finally gets to meet that son of that former emperor face to face, who has put them in this position, who has killed his family. And he says, whether in this life or the next, I will have my vengeance. And we all go, like I said, get it, son, take him out. We feel that power. We love that moment. There's something about vengeance and revenge that makes us feel good. We love this kind of story. The Patriot, Gladiator, Braveheart, Carrie Underwood. I dug my key into the side of his pretty little souped-up four-wheel drive. I carved my name into his leather seats. I took a Louisville Slugger to both headlights, slashed a hole in all four tires. Maybe next time he'll think before he cheats. That's right, Carrie, get it. We love revenge. It's in our core. It's like what we want to do. We want to feel the power. We want to feel the justice. But the truth is that power and that justice and that good feeling don't last very long. Often we walk away feeling empty, and almost never fixes anything. And in fact, maybe you saw in the news last week, there was this pastor in Louisiana, who had an ongoing beef with his neighbor, and his neighbor was shouting across the road and told him that he was going to murder his wife and rape his daughter when he left town. Obviously, pretty shocking words. And then you see this video of that pastor running full steam across the street, getting punched by this guy, jumping on him and beating him in the back of the head for about 2 minutes. Now, I'm sure in that moment he felt really good, right? He was like, yeah, you're not going to hurt my family. You're not going to do anything. And a week later, as the eyes of the world are on him, looking at this guy who said, I'm a shepherd. I'm caring for what's good. I'm pointing people to truth. And here I am completely raging on this guy who threatened my family with words, not even in actions. And there's a certain level of embarrassment we feel when we lose our cool in that way. Though we feel good in that moment with that revenge, it doesn't take long for us to just feel that ick inside. And in fact, psychologists would say there's about 3 things that revenge tends to do, none of them are really good things. And the first is just that revenge makes us feel worse. Like in that moment, it feels good. We got what was ours, we got justice, but we end up feeling worse. We know what we did was wrong. We actually, generally speaking, don't like to make people feel bad, right? Like we feel bad when we see people hurt. When it comes from our own hands, we hurt even more. In fact, it makes us feel so bad worse off that they did studies on this. And people would say, like, they would do revenge, they would feel bad, and they'd be so still wanting to cling to that revenge, and they would say, well, honestly, I'd probably feel worse if I never committed revenge, so I'm doing a lot better than I would be otherwise. It makes us feel bad, and we feel it, and we know it. The second thing that revenge does is revenge traps our minds on the fact of needing revenge. There's a guy named Francis Bacon, not to be confused with Kevin Bacon, and he says this, a man that studieth revenge keeps his own wounds green, which otherwise would heal and do well. When we're focused on getting revenge, when we're focused on getting what's ours, when we're focused on getting back at somebody, we never let our wounds truly heal. They're always green. They're always fresh. We're always thinking about it. They are always alive and active. We're always wondering, did they really get enough justice? Did they really get what was due to them? Do I need to do more? Or do I need to watch my back because they're coming after me like Tupac? Or maybe we're the kind who would say living well is the best kind of revenge. I mean, I pity somebody who thinks that. You live your whole life seeking excellence, not for the benefit of doing excellently, but the benefit of making somebody look at you and say, oh, what did I miss out on? But in reality, that person hasn't thought about you in 35 years. We begin to think, if I could just take hold of this and get some kind of revenge, things would be better. This is why you have this. You see it a lot, right? Like divorced couples, they get divorced, and they both go off, and all of a sudden they start working out. They eat healthy. They get a spray tan. They actually pay for a haircut and wear nice clothes. And you're like, what happened? Like, I got divorced. And it's like they want to show the other spouse how great they really are, but that spouse doesn't give a rip. Like they moved on. But we begin to believe, if I could just somehow get revenge in any kind of way, I will feel better. Whether physical or emotional, Revenge does little but trap you in a cycle of woe is me. Did I win yet? It doesn't offer any kind of freedom. The third thing that revenge tends to do is it spirals into retaliation wars. So I used to have this coworker that I would work with, and he was a guy you never wanted to pull pranks on because he was psychotic. And so you would be like, hey man, guess what? I put some hot sauce in your latte. And he was like, hey, I put your car on blocks and stole your engine. You're like, I don't understand what happened here. Or you would say, hey, you pop out of a closet and scare him to be funny, and then he sends you a ransom note. He's like, kidnapped your daughter. You're like, this isn't the same kind of prank, man. Like, you need to level it down a few times. We have these people in our life, right? They don't understand how pranks work. This is how revenge tends to work. We do something back, and then they come back. And then we go back, and then they come back. And then we go back, and they go back until somebody ends up on America's Most Wanted and nobody wins. Revenge doesn't do anything productive. It just spirals, it spirals, and spirals. You feel terrible. You can't stop thinking about it. You get nowhere and accomplish nothing. We think we're getting ours, but really we're just getting more pain and more frustration. The second thing that we do in response to hurt is we ignore it. Albert Einstein, one of the smartest guys in the world, after, of course, Max Soft, says this. He says, weak people seek revenge, strong people seek forgiveness, intelligent people ignore. So I've got four kids. And sometimes it's overwhelming to remember. And at one point in my life, right now only one kid is in a diaper, and two kids are in pull-ups. And pull-ups, if you don't know, they're just expensive diapers that tear off more easily. And so at one point we had 3 in diapers. And 3 in diapers is a lot. You never really catch up. You're always changing. You've always got a little bit of poo on your nail. And what you do, though, is every night we would have our diaper lineup. We put all our kids in a row, and we had one of these bad boys. Maybe you've seen it. It's called a diaper genie. And how a diaper genie is supposed to work is you fill it up, you see it's full, you take the pretty bag out, you tie it off, you throw it in the dumpster, you put a fresh bag in, and you start all over. How it actually works is you get up there and you change those 3 diapers. And you go to shove that 3rd diaper in, you're like, dang, this thing's a little full. I don't know if I want to go out tonight. I'll deal with this tomorrow, right? So you put it in there. You shut it as best as it'll close. The next night, you come up. You have a great day, man. You're vibing with your family. It was awesome. You get up. You change those 3 diapers. You shove one. You're like, oh, no, not this. And you shove the second. You shove the third. It's pouring down rain. I'm not going outside tonight. And that day, you get up there the next day, and you just smell that little bit of a smell in the room, right? That pee smell. Like the bag's ripped. It's aerating the whole room. It's disgusting. And you look at that thing and you say, it's time I finally got to get this. So you could barely get the bag out, right? You pull it out. Diapers are falling all over the place. You're trying to shove them the best you can. This is what happens when we ignore our hurt and pain that we experience. We think if I could just shove it down, it'll just go away. If I could just shove more on top of it, more and more, I won't think about it anymore. But over time, it just begins to fester, and it begins to smell, and it begins to be horrendous. We think we're doing good, but all we're doing is creating something toxic in our heart. And that begins to have an impact in all kinds of ways in our life. It tends to make things worse. We build up anxieties and panic because we're just filled with confusion of why is somebody coming after me? We feel depressed or emotionally numb. We can even become physically sick. We strain our current relationships because we've forgotten how to relate because we're always a little bit paranoid or nobody wants to be around a Debbie Downer. Or last, the pain that we never dealt with, just like this diaper genie, comes back roaring and it stinks even more than it did before. We thought the nice, good Christian thing to do was just to ignore it. But instead, it's constantly staring us in the face, like that load of laundry we put on the chair 2 weeks ago thinking it would just disappear. It doesn't go away. So what's the answer then? Well, Jesus would give us a third way. And Jesus would tell us that we need to love the one who hurts you. You need to love the one who hurts you. That's what he says. He said, I don't want you to ignore it. I don't want you to get revenge. I don't want you to be a doormat. I want you to love the ones who hurt you. Love your enemies and do good to them, he says. I mean, this is radical. Like, it's radical to us, and it was just as radical to them. His followers were being beaten, stolen from, abandoned, left by their family, murdered over the course of time. And in face of all of that, he says, love your enemies and do good to them. In fact, at the end of that passage, that kind of Luke and Sermon on the Mount I talked about, he says, they're going to come after you just like they always came after the prophets. He's like, they're coming for you, man. And you better love them. And you better do good to them. Isn't it hypothetical for these people? And I don't think it's hypothetical for us either. It was radical. It was Jesus' response to all of this coming their way. He says, be merciful just as your Father is merciful. It would have been a shock to them, not because the Scriptures didn't talk about it. The Scriptures did. In fact, look behind me. You'll see 3 examples of passages in the Bible that talk all about how we ought to love our enemies. You should not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge against the sons of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord your God. Exodus 23. If you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey wandering away, kill it and never give it back. No, he says, you shall return it to him. If you meet your enemy's donkey wandering away, you shall return it. Proverbs 25:21, if your enemy is hungry, throw the food in the trash. No, give him something to eat. And if he's thirsty, give him water to drink. You see, it was shocking to the Jews, not because they never heard God talk this way, but because they just assumed God only meant this was for the Jews. It was the people just like them. The people on the outside, those Gentiles, we could treat them however they wanted. Sure, in our family, we'll make up, we'll deal with it, we'll work through the problems. I won't steal your donkey. But those people on the outside, there's no way. We can do whatever we want to them. They are not like us. And Jesus comes in here to say none of that is true. Whoever your enemy is, whatever they're doing to you, your job is to love them and to do good to them. The law applies to them just the same as it does to you. In fact, he gives 2 idioms. These are pretty common idioms at the time. He says, if someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. He's not telling them to be a doormat. These are idioms. These are like phrases they would have at the time. It generally meant they were far less about actually being hit and actually being stolen from. They were more about a way to gently react and respond when people were harming you. If someone comes at you and slaps you, let them slap the other side. They take your coat and say, you want my pants? He says this is the way that we love. When people take, we give. And we do it joyfully. It says, give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand to get it back. The kind of loving your enemy that Jesus was talking about wasn't revenge. It wasn't ignoring. It wasn't even just being nice. It was going out of your way to bless them at great cost to you. That's what he says all in the middle of our passage this morning, right? He says, if you love those who love you, what credit is it to you? Even the sinners do that. If you loan to those who are good to you, what good is it to you? Even evil people do that. But he says, no, love your enemies and give to those who you don't expect anything back from. He's flipping on the head everything they think about what it means to relate to people, in particular people who hurt them. So then the question ought to be, well, how do we actually love our enemies? If I have to do it, how do I do it? I'm glad you asked. The first thing is this, that we keep on loving them. Every passage in here, every one of these 4 phrases that it says in your Bible, the way that it's used in the Greek is it's an ongoing action. It's not a one-time thing. It's not like, oh yeah, just love them. It's like keep on loving them over and over and over and over. Keep on praying over and over and over. So here it says keep on loving them. The first command he gives is simple, love your enemies. There's 3 kind of love language, 3 kind of words for the word love that we use in the Bible. You got eros, which is like romantic, or I think she's cute, or whatever. You've got phileo, which is like brotherly love. Like think about city of Philadelphia, right? The city of brotherly love. You've got this agape, unconditional kind of love. It's unending. It won't stop. It cannot be quenched by my actions. This is how God loves us. And that word is how God tells us to love our enemies. He says, don't go kiss them. That'd be weird. He says, you're not just buddies. He says, you're going to love them unconditionally in a way that their actions will not quench that love. In the mid-1700s, this guy named Peter Miller, he was a pastor, and he was relieved of his duties because he had kind of changed some theological convictions that he had at the time. But he was a pretty well-connected guy. He was buddies with George Washington. He was buddies with Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, in fact, he was also a smart guy. Thomas Jefferson had him translate the Declaration of Independence into 7 different languages. This was not like a scrub. This was a pretty big deal of a guy who lost his job. Well, the guy who replaced him, his name was Michael Weidman. And Michael Weidman, for whatever reason, just hated Peter. We don't know why he hated him. It was a little small town called Ephrata, Pennsylvania. I hope I said it right that time. Ephrata, Pennsylvania, teeny little town. And it was probably, I think they said at some point there were like 10 houses in the town where they were from. And he didn't like the guy. So he would see him in the street, and he would punch him or slap him in the face. He would spit on him. He would humiliate him. He would insult his family. Again, no real reason why except he took the job from him. I don't know. Like he took the job, and he hated the guy after he took the job from him. Well, this guy, Michael Weidman, in order to make some extra money, he owned like an inn, a hotel on the side with food and beverages. And one night, this is the middle of the Revolutionary War by this point, One night, there was a number of guys who came in, and he's just sitting at the window lamenting about how he hates the Patriots. He hates the Americans. He's a Tory. He wants the British to win. He's probably not super interested, but he doesn't really care about the Patriots. And turns out, two of the guys at the bar at the time, they were American spies. And they say, hey, man, we've got to kill you and arrest you for treason. Well, we're going to arrest you first, then kill you later for treason, because you are speaking bad against the country and against George Washington. So he jumps out of the window like any good man would, and he takes off running, and this isn't even made up. He literally goes to the church of the guy that he's been humiliating for so long and hides behind a chimney in the wall for a little while as the people pursue him. Well, he's in and out of there for a couple of weeks, kind of living like a wild man, and says, you know what, I'd much rather turn myself in than be stuck in this situation. So he gets out, he gets arrested, he gets taken to George Washington at Valley Forge, where he's condemned to die of hanging for treason. Well, Peter hears about this, and Peter had been praying for him, and he said, you know what, I feel like the Lord is telling me that I ought to do to him like I would want done to me, so I'm going to go there. So Peter, here in Pennsylvania, walks to Valley Forge, wherever it was, at 51 miles away, and he says, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to try and fight on his behalf for his life. He gets to George Washington, and he says, Georgie boy, my boy Michael over here, I want you to pardon him. And he gives this whole spiel. And George is like, you know what, man, that's a great spiel. But it's not enough to set your friend free. I'm sorry, we're going to hang him. And he said, my friend, what are you talking about? This is my greatest enemy. George Washington is struck by this for whatever reason. And he said, the fact that he's your enemy makes you want to pardon him all the more, that you would speak up for him in that way. So he pardoned him. And in fact, they would say that this would begin to start a series of pardons and change of heart on George Washington. So good on Peter. Well, Peter and Michael, you would assume they become friends at that point as Michael's life was saved. They walk home. Life is happily ever after. This is the kind of outrageous love that Jesus is telling us to have toward our enemies. That we would go on to love them. We would go out of our way to love them. We would make a difference in their life in loving them. You know, Peter, if he was like me or you and he saw his boy Michael up there, it's about time that man got was coming to him, right? Hang the guy. Make a Christmas ornament out of it. I'll put it on my tree. Get him out of here. But as he's praying and he's sad, he says, you know what? Like, I feel like I need to love him like the Lord would love me, and like I would want to be loved. And he walks 51 miles to make sure this guy, his enemy, isn't hung or hanged, but is living. Paul's description of love in 1 Corinthians 13 is fitting here. In verse 4, love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. It is not boastful. It is not arrogant. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not irritable and does not keep a record of wrongs. Love finds no joy in unrighteousness, but rejoices in truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. This is the kind of agape love Jesus is telling us to have toward our enemies and those who would seek our harm. It's insane in some respects. And it goes against every bone in our body to want to love somebody in this kind of way who is seeking my harm. So what's the second way we can love our enemies? The second way we can do it is we can go on doing good to them. We can go on doing good to them. Two other places in the Bible this is talked about, like putting heaping coals of kindness on somebody's head. That's Proverbs 25:22 and Romans 12:20. It says it's as if you're taking heated up coals, you're putting them on their head. That's your kindness. And it's going to make them think about something, right? Like maybe they repent, maybe they're nice all of a sudden. Who knows how they do, but it's certainly going to change your mind. If I came to you and put a hot coal out the charboil grill on your forehead, you would suddenly change what you thought about something. Maybe that change was your fist in my face, or maybe it was us making up. I don't know. But this is what the Bible talks about when we put our kindness on our enemies. This is what it looks like. In fact, several years ago, me and my wife, we were young and married. When you're young and married, you fight over like dumb things. Like once you have kids and bills and all this, it's a lot. When you're young, it's like, I don't know. Like our first fight ever was, does pizza have to have cheese on it to be called pizza? It's like, you fight about weird stuff. But several years ago, we were working at the same place. It was an after-school care program. My favorite job I've ever had, by the way. I love this job, but it's nothing to this. I got paid $150 a day to help third graders do math and throw a football for 2 hours. It was amazing. It was amazing. I loved it. I do love this job, too, let the record show. So we're there. One day we were riding to work together. We both worked there, and we got a tiff about something, and we're pulling up to a red light, and we go to turn right at this red light. And I pull one of those like California stops. You wouldn't call that here because you don't like them, but like a rolling stop where I go off to the right. And I go do my business. I park. I get out to go into work. And as I get out, I look behind my car, and there's just a big old truck parked there. And this bruiser gets out of there, right? He's screaming at me. You idiot, what are you doing, man? You pulled off in that light like that. You ran some old lady off the road. You had her freaking out all the way. What were you doing? What were you thinking? And I'm thinking, I'm going to die. That's what I'm thinking right now. This guy came out of nowhere. I'm just trying to get paid for nothing, and this guy's trying to kill me. And so I look at him, I'm like, okay, I could try and fight him. I feel like that's not going to go well. Or I could just cower. So I found somewhere in the middle, and I said, you know what, man? You're right. I said, I wasn't paying attention. Me and my wife were in an argument. I wasn't looking at the road. I'm really sorry that I did that to that woman. And I thank you for letting me know, and I'll be sure to pay more attention in the future. And he just looked at me. He's all like this, like about to rip my head off. Like, I'm just like, please, God. And he's like looking like this. And he just looks at me. He's like, oh, okay, all right, man. Well, thanks. And I was like, what? And then he reached out to dab me. I dab him. We literally hug. He gets in his car and he drives off. And I was like, I think I almost died today. I actually think I died a little bit in the middle of that story. This is what it means to really heap coals of kindness on somebody so it changes their mind. It changes their understanding. Maybe you've had this happen in your life, or you're raging and then something nice happens, or maybe sometimes like you and your spouse are in a fight and your kid comes up and does something stupid and like changes everything, You smile and you laugh. This is kind of like what that is. It's what Jesus tells us to do. It says they're seeking to harm you. You be extra kind to them. It's hard to do these things. And he goes on to say, continue to bless them. They're trying to tear you down. They're trying to curse you. They're trying to damn you. He says, continue to bless them over and over and over again. Louis Zamperini was taken prisoner of war in World War II by the Japanese. He was an Olympian. He was a track star. Everyone knew who he was, and all of a sudden he was drafted in the war. And so he goes to war, and he's in the Army Air Corps of Engineers, and he's on a bomber plane headed to Japan to bomb, and his plane gets shot down. They get shot down into the ocean, and they end up on a raft for about 40-some-odd days. There's 11 people on the plane. Only 3 people survive to the raft, and they're on there. One guy dies along the way. They have to throw him off to the sharks. It's a crazy story. They somehow catch seagulls, and they eat one seagull. They turn another seagull into lures to try and catch fish. Ultimately, the raft is shot by the Japanese. They're taken prisoner, and Louis is bounced from one POW camp to another over and over and over and over again. Meanwhile, back in America, they think the dude's dead. There's no record of him. They know the plane went down. They think everything is over. So he's bouncing all around. Life is struggle. He's being humiliated. He's being abused. He's being tortured. And at some point, the war ends, and he makes his way back to America. And he's a war hero, right? Because they're like, I thought you were dead. He's like a double hero, like you came back from the dead, and you're a hero. And he gets married to this beautiful woman. Life is great. Well, he begins to have nightmares and PTSD of all of his times in these prison camps. And in fact, there's a story that's told where his wife woke up in the middle of the night one night with him choking her out because in his dream he was choking a Japanese guard. His life began to spiral. He became an alcoholic. He was very depressed. No one wanted to be around him, and his wife was on the edge of divorce. Well, she went to a Billy Graham crusade. And at this crusade, she got saved. She trusted in Jesus, her and her friend. So they come back, and they're like, Louis, you got to come to one of these things, man. It's going to change your life. You're going to get saved. You got to come. And, of course, he's like, I'm good. I'd rather my bourbon, right? He's like, I'm not going to this thing. Well, eventually he goes there for whatever reason. He hears the gospel of forgiveness of Jesus Christ preached, and he gets saved radically in that moment. He would say after that his nightmares went away. His PTSD went away. But even more shocking, he began to grow in his heart an uncontrollable desire to seek forgiveness with the people who had harmed him in Japan. And so as a war hero, he's able to find his way back to Japan as a former soldier, and he seeks out the guards who are in his prison. And many of them he gave direct forgiveness to, and he preached the gospel to them, and many of them got saved along the way. He had this radical conversion, and all he could think to do was, I need to go bless those who harmed me. And what better way to bless them to offer forgiveness and show them the goodness and hope found only in Jesus Christ. It's a good picture of what Jesus means when he says to continue to bless those who tear you down or damn you. You say, how can I forgive the person who did this to me? How can I forgive blank? It's tough. And outside the Holy Spirit, I don't think we have a chance. I remember in college, I received an email from my dad. I've shared this before. Just an email that just said, you know what, son, I'm done. Don't ever talk to me again. I'm not talking to you anymore. And in that moment, my dad left my life. My dad was in the military growing up, and one time we were watching in my friend's dorm. That show, I don't remember what it's called. It's like there's a big bus in front of your house, and they redo your house. They say, move that bus. And the bus moves. Everyone's crying and cheering, whatever. We're all watching this. And they say, move that bus. And the bus moves, and the family's looking at the house, but in front of the house is their dad dressed full BDUs, who they thought was off at war. And they all start crying, and I all start crying, and they're like, why are you crying? It's not your dad. And I was like, that's right, because my dad is never coming back. I remember saying that. And being so broken, and it just renewed this anger and bitterness in my heart I had toward my dad that took me a few years to overcome. It's difficult to forgive. It's difficult to love those who hurt you. It's difficult to bless those who curse you. Jesus says, do it. Corrie ten Boom says this. She was a Holocaust survivor. We've talked about her in the past. She says, forgiveness is setting the prisoner free only to realize the prisoner was me. Forgiveness is setting the prisoner free only to realize the prisoner was me. See, a lot of us, we hold on to these ideas of revenge or payback and getting ours, and we think in that we're going to find our freedom. But it's those actions that are actually imprisoning us. When we can finally love again, when we can finally forgive, it's at that point that we are freed from the bondage that we put on ourselves. Loving our enemy is the way Jesus commands us to do it. It's a powerful method to demonstrate his love to others. It's a powerful way to free ourselves from anger, hatred, and bondage that we create because of our bitterness. The last thing Jesus tells us to do, he says, never cease praying for them. Never cease praying for them. Do you mean never start praying for them? Never cease praying for them. He says, keep on praying for those who hurt you. While this one is pretty straightforward, the challenge is this. I think we're all fine with making up with somebody. We're fine to be the ones in control. I can love you. I can bless you. I can say I forgive you. All this is great. But you want me to all of a sudden believe and pray that God can do the same thing? I don't know if I want God to forgive you. I don't know if I want God to heal you. I don't know if I want God to restore you. I'm fine to do the nice things, but I don't think you deserve that from God. I don't think you do. So I don't want to pray that. And so he says this, I don't want you to just pray for, I want you to keep praying for them. I want you on your knees. I want you to pray that they would receive the same forgiveness that you received. This is hard to do, man. It's hard to pray for somebody who's hurt you. Yet Jesus calls us to do it, and I think he calls us to do it a lot like he prayed for us, his enemies, when he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Where do we get this kind of boldness and power to love our enemies? It can't come from within. You can't muster it up, right? You can't. Again, Corrie ten Boom, who I mentioned before, she says, when God tells us to love our enemies, he gives along with the command the love itself. When he tells us to love our enemies, he gives along with the command the love itself. It's impossible to forgive and to love and to bless in this kind of way if you have not experienced the love of Christ. Because it's his love overcoming through you. It's his love overflowing through you. That's going to be what overwhelms your enemy and those who seek to harm you. You see, the truth is, 1 John 4:19 says that we love because he first loved us, and I think it would also mean that we forgive because he first forgave us. Our capacity to love and forgive can really only come by those who have been forgiven and loved by Jesus Christ. Romans 8:6 says this, for while we were still helpless, at the right time, Christ died for the ungodly. That's you. That's me. For rarely will someone die for a just person, though for a good person, perhaps someone might even dare to die. But God proves his love for us that while we're still sinners, Christ died for us. How much more then, since we have been justified by his blood, will we be saved through him from wrath? For if while we were enemies, you were an enemy, I was an enemy, we were reconciled to God through the death of his Son, then how much more, having been reconciled, will we be saved by his life? And not only that, but we also boast in God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have now received this reconciliation. My friends, right now, you were either previously an enemy of God, or you are currently a friend of God because you have who are saved by grace, or you are currently an enemy of God, in enmity with him, separated from him. We're enemies of God. We tore him down. You sought to go against his ways. You hated him. The Bible would call us a child of wrath who seeks after the ways of the gods of this world, Satan himself. Yet, in the midst of that, in the midst of being his enemy, God would save you anyway. Some of you have no capacity to love and forgive because you've never experienced love and forgiveness from your Father in heaven. And the very way you think he's loving you, full of condemnation and shame and guilt, it's the same way you choose to love others. That cannot change unless you trust in him. Because on the cross, Jesus loved you like no other. On the cross, Jesus did the greatest deed ever done by taking your place on that cross. On the cross, Jesus blessed you. And he offered you forgiveness that your works could never earn. On that cross, Jesus prayed for you, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. Have you received this love or forgiveness? You may feel that whatever you've done is unforgivable by God, and that you will always be his enemy, that you will always be against him. That's simply why Jesus came. Because we were enemies who could not save ourselves. And while we were still sinners, and while we were still enemies, Christ died for us. My friend, would you receive that forgiveness today? And in doing so, you no longer are Christ's enemy, but his child, his son and daughter in whom he's well pleased. And in trusting in him, I think you'll begin to find the power for forgiveness and healing that you feel is so impossible, that only his Holy Spirit can provide. And 4 action steps I want to give y'all before we transition back into worship. Things that I think you can take away as you process this on your own. The first is this. I want you to ask this week, who has hurt me? Who has hurt me? The truth is, everyone in this room has been hurt by somebody in some kind of way. If you're like, nobody's hurt me ever, I'm like, man, either it's coming or you're completely ambivalent. You have been hurt. Most of us in some pretty dramatic ways. I want you to say, who has hurt me? Maybe your list is one person. Maybe it's 29. Who's hurt me? Then I want you to answer, how have they hurt me? Do they abandon me? Do they tear me down? Do they humiliate me? How have they hurt me? I want you to pray for the strength to forgive them. I say, Lord, would you just give me the strength because on my own I can't do it? And then forgive them in the same way that Christ forgave you. So what we're going to do is our elders and some of the wives are going to come up right now to the front. If you want to pray in any kind of way, you're free to always come up here. The altar is always open. You can pray by yourself, but we've got some folks up here. If you want to pray, you recognize, I really am just an enemy of God. I don't know him. I need to be saved. Come pray with somebody. Find that friendship, that love of God that you've so been longing for, and everything will be different. Maybe you're harboring bitterness and anger against somebody, and you don't know how to find forgiveness. You don't know how to love them. You don't know how to do any of this. Come just give that to somebody else and let them carry that burden with you. There's any number of things you might come up and pray for. My elders, Pastor Young, come up right now. Maybe there's something else you just feel on your heart inclined to pray. They're here for you in that also. But as we worship, as we sing, I want us to be reminded of our God in heaven, who though we were enemies, would make us friends. And I pray for some of you today that truth would become a reality in your life.
But he brought me his chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Yeah, I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. Yeah, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
Elevation Church, we have an awesome privilege today to get to do a baptism with one of our Elevation kids. Before we do that, I want to give a quick heads up on what baptism is if you're new to this. Baptism is simply us saying that we are choosing to follow, that we are telling everybody else that we have chosen to follow after Jesus, that we've been saved by him and his grace. There's something magical about this water. In fact, there's literally stuff floating in it right now, and I think a cow is drinking out of this morning. So there's nothing magical. It's regular old Billings water, which y'all know is sus. So, but what baptism is it is an opportunity for us to show that we have followed after Jesus. It's like this. Like, say, if I grew up a Bobcat fan, and I've got my Bobcat jerseys. I love it. It's great. We won a national championship. It's wow, powerful. And then I meet this girl, and she's kind of a baddie. And I'm like, I love you, but she's a Grizz fan, and we get married. Well, eventually, I'm like, I want peace in my house. So I am now a Grizz fan. And the way that I show that is I cast aside and throw away all my old Bobcat gear, and I put on that Grizz jersey and say, I'm Team Grizz for life. That's right. There you go. This is what baptism is. Baptism is saying, I'm no longer following my old way of life. I'm no longer living that lifestyle. I'm no longer Team World, but I'm Team Jesus, and I want everybody to know. So what baptism doesn't save you. It's a picture of what salvation was. So in the water, the Bible tells us in Colossians that we've been buried with Christ in baptism. We've been raised up to a new life. We want to give that picture that we've been buried. We've been dead to our old selves and been given a new life in Jesus Christ. Whenever we baptize, we ask two questions to those being baptized. We'll ask, do you believe Jesus has done everything necessary to save you? And you're willing to go wherever he tells you to go and do whatever he tells you to do. And so right now, my boy Preston up here coming up. Give it up for Preston. So Preston, you can hop on in. Get on in there. I wouldn't dive, but you can get in there. All right, so when we baptize him, Mama Maddie's going to baptize him in just a second. When he comes out of the water, I want you to cheer like he just came from death to life, because that's what he's showing he did, all right? Sound good? All right. So, Preston, I got two questions for you, buddy. Scoot way on over here. No, don't do your back that way. Come over here. Perfect. Right there. Good. There you go. Just like that. No, perfect. Feet either way. You will figure it out. All right, Preston, I got two questions for you. First question is, do you believe Jesus has done everything necessary to save you?
Yes.
Yes. And are you willing to go wherever he tells you to go and do whatever he tells you to do?
Yes.
That is amazing. Well, come right over here to your mama, Preston. And cross your arms. And she's going to dunk you all the way into the water, all right?
Preston, it's my privilege to baptize you in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
There we go. Amazing. Would you stand as we continue in worship?
I am an instrument
of exaltation, and I was born to lift your name above all names. You hear the melody of all creation, but there's a song of praise that only I can bring. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. You are the infinite God of the yet you chose to make my heart your dwelling place. You healed my brokenness, showed me your glory. So I have songs of things not even angels sing. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, to you are all things. You deserve the glory.
Elevation Church, there is a world outside these doors in enmity with God who don't know that through Jesus Christ, they can be considered a friend and a son and a daughter. So wherever you go this week, as you yourself struggle to forgive those who have hurt you, would you not neglect to tell the good news to those around you? There's a God in heaven who has loved them, who can redeem them, and who can call them friend. This week, Elevation Church is to those you are sent. We'll see you next week.